The betrayal uncovered. Maya sat frozen in her car outside the coffee shop, staring through the rain-streaked window at a scene that made her stomach drop. Inside, illuminated by warm Edison bulbs, her best friend Nina sat across from Derek, Maya's ex-boyfriend, their hands intertwined on the small wooden table. Nina was laughing at something he said, that bright, genuine laugh Maya knew so well. Derek wore the same charming smile he'd used to win Maya over 3 years ago, the same smile that had hidden months of emotional neglect and manipulation. Maya's hands gripped the steering wheel until her knuckles turned white. She'd come here to surprise Nina with her favorite caramel latte after Nina had mentioned having a rough week at the elementary school where she taught. Instead, Maya had stumbled upon a betrayal that cut deeper than Derek's mistreatment ever had. She thought back to 2 years ago when she'd finally found the courage to leave Derek. The relationship had slowly drained her, his constant criticism disguised as honesty, his habit of making plans then canceling at the last minute, the way he'd dismiss her graphic design work as just playing with colors on a computer. Nina had been there through all of it, holding Maya while she cried, encouraging her to recognize her worth, celebrating when Maya finally walked away. Nina knew everything, every painful detail, every tear, every moment Maya had doubted herself because of Derek's subtle cruelty. And now, Nina sat there holding his hand. Maya's phone buzzed with a text from Nina. "Sorry, can't make our dinner tonight. Something came up with work." 3 exclamation points, Nina's tell when she was lying. Maya scrolled back through their recent messages with fresh eyes. The pattern was suddenly obvious. All those canceled plans over the past month, the vague explanations, the times Nina seemed distracted during their phone calls. How long had this been going on? Why hadn't Nina said anything? Maya's first instinct was to storm inside and confront them both. Her second was to call Nina immediately and demand answers. But as she sat there watching them through the window, something stopped her. She saw the way Nina looked at Derek, the same hopeful, trusting expression Maya remembered wearing in the early days. Nina didn't see what was coming. She couldn't see the warning signs because she was still in the honeymoon phase, still believing in the version of Derek that only existed for the first few months. Maya pulled out her phone and opened her notes app, scrolling through entries she'd written during the worst parts of her relationship with Derek. "He canceled our anniversary dinner again. Said a work meeting ran late, but I saw him post a photo at a bar with colleagues. When I mentioned it, he said I was being controlling." Another entry. "He told me my new design portfolio looked amateur in front of his friends. When I got upset, he said I'm too sensitive and can't handle constructive criticism." A cold determination settled over Maya. She could warn Nina directly, but she knew her friend well enough to predict the response. Nina would defend Derek, insist he'd changed, maybe even accuse Maya of jealousy or being unable to let go. The accusation would drive a wedge between them, and Nina would cling to Derek even harder to prove everyone wrong. No, Maya needed to be smarter than that. She started her car and drove away before they noticed her, her mind already forming a plan. Her birthday was coming up next month, the weekend getaway she'd been planning at her family's lakeside cabin. She'd invite Nina, Derek, and their close circle of friends. She'd create a comfortable environment where Derek would feel relaxed enough to reveal his true nature, not through manipulation or tricks, but simply through situations that would naturally expose the selfishness he'd always carried. Maya would protect her best friend the only way she knew how, by letting Nina see the truth with her own eyes, even if it meant spending a weekend watching the man who'd broken her heart try to charm everyone all over again. Life lesson. True friendship sometimes means protecting people from painful truths they're not ready to hear, by patiently creating space for them to discover those truths themselves. Real love respects someone enough to let them learn at their own pace.
The careful setup. The invitation went out 2 weeks later, a cheerful group text to Maya's inner circle. Birthday weekend at the lake. 3 days of good food, better company, and absolutely no work talk allowed. She included Nina, Derek, and 4 other close friends, people who'd known Maya during her relationship with Derek and witnessed the aftermath. Nina responded immediately with excited emojis. Derek's reply came an hour later. "Wouldn't miss it, thanks for including me." Maya stared at that message, noting the lowercase letters, the casual tone that suggested they were just casual acquaintances rather than two people who'd once planned a future together. The cabin sat nestled among pine trees, overlooking a calm lake that reflected the sky like polished glass. Maya arrived early Friday afternoon to prepare, stocking the kitchen with groceries and setting up the spacious living room for their group. She thought carefully about every detail, not to trap Derek, but to create natural opportunities for his character to show. Everyone arrived by evening. Nina hugged Maya tightly, whispering, "I've missed you so much. We need to catch up properly this weekend." The guilt in her voice was palpable, and Maya felt a pang of sympathy despite her hurt. Derek followed behind, carrying Nina's bag along with his own, playing the gentleman perfectly. "Maya, the cabin looks amazing," Derek said, flashing that practiced smile. "Thanks again for having us." "Of course," Maya replied evenly. "We're all family here." That first night, Maya kept things light with board games and wine on the deck. She watched Derek perform, the way he always had in groups, charming, attentive, making people laugh with well-timed jokes. She noticed Nina glowing beside him, proud to be with someone so seemingly confident and likable. But Maya also noticed the small things. When Nina asked Derek to refill her wine glass, he said, "Sure, babe," but became engrossed in a conversation and forgot. When their friend Jasmine asked Derek about his work, he dominated the discussion for 15 minutes, barely pausing to let anyone else speak. When Nina tried to share a funny story from her classroom, Derek interrupted halfway through with his own anecdote, and Nina's smile faltered just slightly. Saturday morning, Maya suggested a group hike to the waterfall trail, a moderately challenging 3-mile loop. "It's tradition," she announced at breakfast. "Birthday girl picks the activity, and everyone participates." Derek's face flickered with annoyance before smoothing back into pleasantness. "Sounds great, though I should probably take a few work calls this morning. Big case coming up." "You said no work this weekend," Nina reminded him gently, touching his arm. "I know, but this is important, Nina. You understand." Maya watched Nina's expression, the familiar acceptance of being deprioritized. Maya had worn that same understanding smile countless times, convincing herself that Derek's career demands were reasonable, that she was being supportive. "The signal is terrible up here anyway. Barely gets 1 bar. Besides, you can't miss the waterfall, Derek. It's only a 3-hour round trip. Surely your clients can wait that long on a Saturday?" Trapped by the group's expectant faces, Derek agreed with a tight smile. The hike revealed more cracks. Derek complained about the pace, insisted on taking a longer break than needed, and when Nina stumbled on loose rocks, he was 20 feet ahead, absorbed in conversation with their friend Marcus about stock investments. Maya caught Nina's arm, steadying her, and their eyes met for a brief moment. "Thanks," she murmured. "Derek didn't notice I almost fell." "He's probably just focused on the trail ahead," Maya offered neutrally, though they both knew the path was easy enough. That afternoon, Maya organized a cooking competition where everyone paired up to make dinner. She carefully didn't assign partners, letting people choose naturally. Derek immediately claimed Marcus, leaving Nina to pair with Jasmine. Throughout the cooking, Derek treated it like a genuine competition, criticizing Marcus's knife skills and taking over most tasks. When Nina's team's pasta dish received more compliments than Derek's elaborate steak, he joked that the judges clearly have unsophisticated palates, but his smile didn't reach his eyes. Later, while cleaning up, Maya found Nina alone on the dock, feet dangling over the water. She sat beside her friend, letting the silence stretch comfortably between them. "He's been different lately," Nina said quietly, unprompted. "A little distracted. A little less, present." Maya chose her words carefully. "New relationships have phases. People can't maintain first-date energy forever. Is that how it was with you two?" Maya's chest tightened. This was the opening she had been waiting for, but she had to be gentle. "Every relationship is different. What matters is how you feel, Nina. Does he make you feel valued, heard, important?" Nina didn't answer immediately, just watched the sunset paint the lake in shades of orange and pink. "Most of the time," she finally said, but the hesitation in her voice spoke volumes. That night, around the fire pit, Derek monopolized conversation again, this time with a long complaint about opposing counsel in his current case. When Nina tried to shift the subject to something more inclusive, suggesting they play the gratitude game they'd enjoyed the night before, Derek waved her off. "Let's just relax, babe. Not everything needs to be a structured activity." The dismissive tone made Nina flinch. Across the fire, Maya caught Jasmine's concerned glance. Their other friends were beginning to notice, too, the subtle ways Derek diminished Nina's contributions, how he prioritized his own comfort over group harmony. Maya said nothing, just watched as her best friends slowly began to see what Maya had seen too late in her own relationship. The weekend was only half over, and the foundation of Nina's illusions was already cracking. Sometimes the truth didn't need to be spoken. It just needed space to reveal itself. Life lesson. Actions reveal character more powerfully than words ever can. When you create space for people to show their true nature without pressure or confrontation, patterns become undeniable and truth emerges naturally.
Cracks in the facade. Sunday morning arrived with thick clouds promising rain. Maya woke early and started breakfast for everyone. Pancakes, fresh fruit, and strong coffee. She'd planned one final group activity, a tradition she'd maintained for years, a meaningful conversation circle where everyone shared something they were grateful for and something they were struggling with. It was vulnerable and real, the kind of emotional intimacy that always revealed people's true capacity for empathy. As everyone gathered around the large dining table, plates full and coffee steaming, Maya explained the tradition. We go around and everyone shares authentically. No judgment, just support. It's a safe space. Jasmine went first, talking about her gratitude for friendship and her struggle with her mother's declining health. The group offered genuine sympathy and support. Marcus shared his appreciation for his new job and his fear about whether he was good enough for it. Nina squeezed his hand across the table, offering encouragement in her natural, nurturing way. When it came to Nina's turn, she took a breath. "I'm grateful for new beginnings and second chances at happiness, but I'm struggling with feeling like I'm not being fully honest with someone I love." Her eyes flickered to Maya, filled with guilt and apology. Maya felt her throat tighten, but managed a small, understanding nod. Then it was Derek's turn. He shifted in the seat, clearly uncomfortable with the emotional atmosphere. "I'm grateful for my career success, I guess, and I'm struggling with, people's unrealistic expectations. Like, not everyone can be emotionally available 24/7. Some of us have demanding jobs and responsibilities." The table fell silent. The defensive tone, the lack of real vulnerability, the subtle jab that being asked for emotional presence, it hung in the air like smoke. "That's interesting," Jasmine said carefully, "because I think most people aren't asking for 24/7 availability, just presence during the time you do spend together, quality over quantity." Derek's jaw tightened. Easy to say when you're not a lawyer billing 200 hours a month. Not all of us have 9-to-5 jobs with weekends off. "I'm a teacher," Nina said quietly, her voice barely above a whisper. "I work 60-hour weeks during the school year, take work home every night, and spend my own money on classroom supplies, but I still try to be present with the people I care about." Derek turned to her, irritation flashing across his face before he controlled it. "That's different, Nina. I'm not criticizing your job. I'm just saying corporate law operates at a different level of pressure." "Different level," Maya repeated, unable to stay silent. "Different level. As if Nina's work with children, shaping young minds and dealing with parents and administration and budget cuts somehow operates at a lower level than reviewing contracts." Derek's eyes snapped at Maya, and for a moment she saw the cold anger she remembered from their worst fights. "I'm not diminishing I didn't say lower level. Don't put words in my mouth, Maya. You always did that, twisted things to make me the bad guy." "I'm literally just repeating what you said," Maya replied calmly.
The tone matters, Derek shot back. You're trying to make me look bad in front of everyone. Nina stood up abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor. You're making yourself look bad, Derek. You just dismissed my entire career as less demanding than yours, then accused Maya of attacking you when she simply called it out. Nina, come on, you're being oversensitive. Don't tell me I'm being oversensitive. That's what you said last week when I mentioned feeling ignored. That's what you said when I was upset about you canceling our plans for the third time. I'm not oversensitive. You're being dismissive and condescending. The group sat frozen, witnessing the argument unfold. Derek stood up too, his lawyer persona emerging. This is ridiculous. I came here to celebrate Maya's birthday, and somehow I'm being attacked for having a successful career and setting boundaries. Boundaries? Nita laughed bitterly, tears forming in her eyes. The boundary where your time and priorities always matter more than mine? The boundary where my feelings are oversensitive, but yours require immediate attention and accommodation? Maybe if you had higher standards for yourself professionally, you'd understand the pressure I'm under, Derek said, his voice cold. The words landed like a slap. Nina physically recoiled, and Maya stood immediately, fury coursing through her veins. Get out, Maya said quietly. Excuse me? Derek turned to her. Get out! Get out of my cabin, now! Oh, here we go. The bitter ex finally shows her true colors. This whole weekend was about making me look bad, wasn't it, Maya? You couldn't stand seeing Nina and I happy? You just told a woman who dedicates her life to educating children that she lacks professional standards because she called you out for being dismissive. That's not Maya twisting anything. That's you showing exactly who you are. Derek looked around the table, seeing only disapproving faces staring back at him. He grabbed his jacket from the back of his chair. This is unbelievable. Nina, are you coming? Nina wiped her tears, looking at him with clear eyes for the first time. No, I'm staying. And when we get back to the city, we're done. You're breaking up with me because of one argument? Because your friends ganged up on me? I'm breaking up with you because in one weekend, I've watched you dismiss everyone around you, prioritize yourself constantly, and when confronted, you attacked my career and told me my feelings don't matter. Nina's voice grew stronger with each word. I'm breaking up with you because Maya tried to warn me without saying a word, and I finally understand why. Derek stared at her for a long moment, then at Maya. Something flickered in his expression. Not quite remorse, but perhaps recognition. Without another word, he walked out, the cabin door closing heavily behind him. Nina collapsed into her chair, sobbing. Maya rushed to her side, wrapping her arms around her best friend while Jasmine grabbed tissues and Marcus quietly started clearing plates to give them space. I'm so sorry, Nina gasped between tears. I'm so sorry I didn't believe you, that I dated him, knowing what he did to you, that I... Shh, Maya soothed, stroking Nina's hair. You have nothing to apologize for. You needed to see it yourself. I understand. How did you survive 2 years of that? Maya closed her eyes, remembering. Very slowly, I forgot what I deserved. That's what people like Derek do. They erode your standards so gradually, you don't notice until you're accepting crumbs and calling it a feast. Outside, through the window, Maya caught a glimpse of Derek sitting in his car, his head in his hands. For just a moment, something in his posture looked less anger and more like devastation. But she pushed the observation aside, focusing on her friend who needed her more. Life lesson. When someone tells you who they are through their actions, believe them. Self-worth isn't selfish, it's the foundation of healthy relationships. Demanding respect and emotional presence isn't having unrealistic expectations, it's having appropriate standards.
Unexpected vulnerability. The rest of Sunday passed quietly. Nina stayed close to Maya, alternating between tears and relieved laughter as she processed the breakup. Their friends rallied around her, sharing their own observations from the weekend and reassuring Nina that she'd made the right choice.
By evening, the group had transformed the heaviness into something lighter, playing cards and telling stories that had nothing to do with Derek. Maya assumed he'd driven back to the city immediately, but Monday morning, as she took her coffee onto the deck to watch the sunrise, she found Derek sitting on the dock where she'd sat with Nina 2 days earlier. His car was still parked in the driveway. Her first instinct was to turn around and go back inside, but something about the slope of his shoulders, the defeated way he sat with his arms wrapped around his knees, made her pause. Against her better judgment, she walked down to the dock. Derek heard her footsteps and looked up. His eyes were red-rimmed, his usually styled hair disheveled. He looked like he hadn't slept. "I know you want me gone," he said hoarsely. "I slept in my car. I'll leave in a few minutes. I couldn't drive yesterday. I wasn't safe to be on the road." Maya sat down, keeping several feet of distance between them. "You could have gotten a hotel." "I tried. Everything within 30 miles was booked. Some fishing tournament." He laughed bitterly. "Fitting, right? Karma making me sleep in a parking lot after what I said to Nina." They sat in silence, watching morning mist rise off the lake. Maya sipped her coffee, waiting for whatever this was to unfold. "I've been in therapy," Derek said suddenly, "for 6 months, since February." Maya felt a jolt of surprise, but said nothing. "After we broke up, I dated someone else, Sarah. She was a surgeon, brilliant, confident. After 3 months, she told me I was emotionally stunted and exhausting to be with. He picked up a small stone and tossed it into the water. She said I treated relationships like negotiations, always positioning myself to win. She said being with me felt like constantly proving her worth while I offered nothing but criticism disguised as honesty." Maya recognized her own experience in those words. "What did you do?" "I got angry. Told her she was too demanding, too sensitive. All the same things I said to you, to Nina." Derek's voice cracked. "Then she sent me a list, an actual documented list of every time I dismissed her feelings, canceled plans, or belittled her work over 3 months. 67 instances. She'd kept track because her therapist suggested it to make sure she wasn't imagining the pattern." "Were you surprised by the number?" "I was shocked. I couldn't believe I'd done those things. So I argued that she'd misinterpreted situations, taken things out of context. Then she asked me one question that changed everything. If I showed this list to a stranger, would they think these were the actions of someone who loved and respected me? And I couldn't say yes. I couldn't even pretend." Maya felt something shift in her chest, a hairline crack in the wall of anger she'd maintained for 2 years. "I started therapy the next week, spent months unpacking why I do this, where it comes from. My therapist says I have avoidant attachment, rooted in growing up with parents who made love conditional on achievement. I learned to protect myself by staying emotionally distant, by making sure I was always the more important, more successful, more valuable person in any relationship." Derek's hands shook slightly as he ran them through his hair. "It doesn't excuse anything. Understanding why I hurt people doesn't undo the hurt, but I'm trying to change." "Then why were you exactly the same this weekend?" Maya asked, her voice harder than she intended. "If you've been in therapy for 6 months, why did you treat Nina the way you treated me?" Derek's face crumpled. "Because I'm terrified. I've been working so hard to change my patterns, but the moment I'm in a group setting, stressed, feeling judged, I revert. It's like there's this defensive wall that goes up automatically and I can't stop it fast enough." He pulled out his phone with trembling hands, opening his notes app. "I journal now. My therapist has me document situations where I fall back into old patterns and analyze what triggered it." He showed Maya his screen. Entry after entry, dated and detailed. Dismissed Nina's concern about our relationship. Trigger, fear that she was seeing my flaws. Response, made her feel like her perception was the problem instead of my behavior. Another,
canceled plans with Nina to work late. Trigger, work felt safer than vulnerability. Impact, showed her she's not a priority. Maya read through them, seeing her own painful memories reflected in his recent relationship with Nina. You knew you were hurting her and kept doing it? The awareness doesn't always come in the moment. Sometimes it's hours later, sometimes days, when I journal and realize what I've done. I'm trying, Maya. I really am. But changing patterns you've had for 30 years doesn't happen overnight. Tears ran down his face now, unchecked. This weekend, watching Nina's face when I said that about her professional standards, seeing the same look I saw on your face so many times before you left me, it broke something in me. Good, Maya said quietly. It should have broken a long time ago. Derek nodded, accepting the harshness of her words. You were right to leave me. Nina was right to end things. I don't deserve either of you. He stood, wiping his face. I'll go now. I just wanted you to know that I see it now. I see what I did to you, how much I hurt you, and I'm sorry doesn't cover it, but I'm sorry anyway. He started walking back to his car, and Maya sat frozen on the dock, her mind racing. Part of her felt vindicated, hearing him finally acknowledge everything. Part of her felt angry that it had taken another woman documenting his behavior for him to see what Maya had begged him to see for 2 years. But another part, a part she didn't want to acknowledge, felt something else entirely. Derek, wait, she called out. He turned, hope and fear warring on his face. Maya stood, walked closer. Show me the rest of it. All of it. Your therapy homework, your journal entries, everything. If you're really changing, prove it. Not with words, with evidence of the work. For the next 2 hours, they sat in Derek's car as rain began to fall, and she showed him everything. Worksheets from his therapist about recognizing dismissive language, voice recordings of himself practicing validating responses, text messages to his therapist in moments of crisis, asking for help before responding to Nina, a list he'd made of every hurtful thing he could remember saying to Maya, with notes on what he should have said instead. Maya read through it all, seeing the struggle, the setbacks, the genuine effort. It didn't erase the past. It didn't undo the damage, but it was more than she'd ever expected from him. This doesn't mean we're getting back together, she said finally. I know. This doesn't mean I forgive you. I understand. But this means I believe you're trying, and that's more than I thought possible. Maya met his eyes. You hurt me deeply, Derek. You made me question my worth, my sanity, my right to have needs in a relationship. That doesn't just disappear because you're in therapy now. I know, Derek whispered. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, Maya. They sat in the rain-streaked car, two people who'd caused each other immense pain, trying to figure out if understanding could lead to anything beyond closure. Finally, Maya made a decision. I'm going to give you my therapist's number. She specializes in relational trauma. I think you should talk to her, get her perspective on your work, and maybe in a few months, if you're still doing the work, we could try having coffee, just as two people who once mattered to each other, nothing more. Really? Derek's voice broke on the word. Really? But Derek, if you backslide, if you hurt Nina again by trying to get her back, if I see any sign that this is manipulation rather than genuine change, I'm done. Forever. Understood? Understood. Thank you, Maya, for giving me even this much. As Maya walked back to the cabin, she felt lighter somehow, as if she'd been carrying anger for so long that setting it down, even partially, created space for something new. She didn't know what that something would be, but for the first time since leaving Derek 2 years ago, she felt open to the possibility of finding out. Life lesson. Growth is possible, but it requires sustained effort, accountability, and honest self-examination. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting or immediately reconciling. It can simply mean releasing the weight of anger while maintaining healthy boundaries and realistic expectations.
Healing and second chances. 3 months later, Maya sat in her favorite cafe, the same one where she'd first seen Nina and Derek together. This time she was alone, working on a logo design for a new client, when Nina slid into the seat across from her. "Surprise visit," Nina grinned, setting down 2 caramel lattes. "I brought your favorite." Maya saved her work and closed her laptop, genuinely happy to see her friend. Their relationship had strengthened considerably since the lake house weekend. The honesty that came from that experience had removed barriers neither of them had realized existed. "How's the new school year starting?" Maya asked. "Chaotic and wonderful. I have 23 fourth graders who think they're already too cool for everything." Nina's eyes sparkled as she talked about her students, and Maya noticed something different about her friend. A confidence, a groundedness that hadn't been there before. "You look happy," Maya observed. "I am. Really happy, actually. I've been doing therapy too, working on why I ignored red flags, why I was so quick to make excuses for Derek's behavior." Nina stirred her latte thoughtfully. "Turns out, I have this pattern of trying to fix people, of believing my love can change them. But that weekend taught me something important. People can only change themselves, and I deserve someone who's already doing that work, not someone I have to convince to start." "That's huge, Nina. I'm proud of you." "I'm proud of us," she corrected. "You protected me without controlling me. You let me see the truth myself instead of forcing it on me. That's real friendship." They talked for another hour about everything and nothing. Nina's students, Maya's new design projects, a vacation they were planning together for the holidays. As they were getting ready to leave, Nina hesitated. "I saw Derek last week," she said carefully, "at the bookstore. He looked different. Calmer, somehow." Maya's heart rate picked up slightly. "How did that feel?" "Honestly, fine. I felt nothing romantic toward him, just a kind of neutral acknowledgement that he's a person who exists in the world." Nina studied Maya's face. "But I got the sense that he wasn't there randomly, that maybe he was hoping to run into you. You sometimes go to that bookstore on Wednesdays." Maya felt heat rise to her cheeks. She hadn't told Nina about the occasional coffee meetings she'd been having with Derek over the past 2 months, not because she was hiding them exactly, but because she was still figuring out what they meant. "We've been talking. Just coffee, very occasionally. He's still in therapy, making progress. I've been keeping it at a distance, but, Nina leaned forward. "But I see the change, Nina. Real change. The defensiveness is mostly gone. He asks questions now instead of dominating conversations. He can sit with criticism without deflecting. Last week, I pointed out that he'd interrupted me, and instead of arguing, he apologized immediately and asked me to finish my thought." Nina's expression was complicated, protective concern with cautious hope. "How do you feel about him?" Maya took a deep breath. "Confused, scared, cautiously optimistic. I'm not the same person I was 2 years ago either. I'm stronger now, clearer about my boundaries. I know what I deserve, and I'm not looking to rescue or fix him. He's doing that work himself. But there are moments when we talk, when I see glimpses of who he could have been all along if he'd done this work years ago, and I wonder if second chances are possible?" "If second chances are wise," Maya corrected. "They're always possible. The question is whether they're healthy." Nina reached across the table and squeezed Maya's hand. "You know I support whatever you decide, but promise me something. Promise you'll trust yourself. If you see old patterns returning, if he starts making you feel small again, you'll walk away without guilt." "I promise," Maya said, meaning it. That evening, Maya met Derek at a small restaurant neither of them had been to before. Neutral territory, free from old memories. He arrived exactly on time, something she noticed because he used to always be 15 minutes late. "Hi," he said, genuine warmth in his smile. "You look nice." "Thanks. So do you." They ordered food and fell into easy conversation, discussing a documentary they'd both watched and a news article about changes in corporate law practices. Maya observed him carefully, watching for signs of the old Derek, the dismissiveness, the need to appear superior, the subtle put-downs disguised as jokes.
They didn't come. I finished reading that book you recommended, the one about attachment styles. It helped me understand my parents better, but it also made me realize how much I expected you to parent me emotionally, to manage my feelings while I neglected yours. That's a big realization. My therapist says I'm learning what she calls emotional object permanence, that your feelings and needs exist even when we're not actively discussing them, that they should inform my choices even when you're not in the room reminding me. Apparently that should be obvious, but it wasn't to me. I thought if you didn't explicitly state a need in the moment, it didn't count. I used to exhaust myself stating needs repeatedly, hoping eventually one would stick. I know. I have your old texts, the ones where you tried so hard to explain what you needed. I read them now and can't believe how blind I was. Derek's voice grew thick with emotion. I can't undo any of it, Maya. I can't give you back those 2 years or erase the pain. All I can do is be different going forward and hope that maybe someday that could mean something to you. It already means something, Maya said quietly. Change is hard. Facing your flaws is excruciating. The fact that you're doing it says something about your character, even if that character took too long to emerge. Derek met her eyes. I'm not asking you to date me again. I'm not even asking you to consider it. I just want to know you, this new version of you, who's even stronger and more beautiful than before. I want to be someone worthy of your friendship, even if that's all that ever is. Maya felt tears prick her eyes. This was what she'd needed 2 years ago. That she mattered. That her growth was noticed. That she was valued beyond what she could provide to him. I'm not ready to date you, she said honestly. I might never be ready. The hurt goes deep. Derek understood. But I'm willing to keep having these conversations. To keep seeing if the change is sustainable. If the person you're becoming is someone I want in my life long term, in whatever capacity feels right. Maya paused, searching for the right words. You're not trying to win me back. You're trying to become someone better. That's the only reason I'm still here. That's more than I deserve, Derek said softly. Thank you for not giving up on me completely. Over the following months, Maya and Derek continued their careful rebuilding. They had dinner every few weeks, sometimes joined by mutual friends who watched their interactions with cautious approval. Derek met Maya's new boundaries with consistent respect. When she said she needed space, he gave it without complaint. When she called him out on a behavior that felt familiar in a bad way, he listened without defensiveness and adjusted. Slowly, Maya felt herself beginning to trust again. Not blindly, not naively, but with the wisdom of someone who'd been hurt and healed and knew exactly what she was watching for. Nina supported the process while maintaining her protective instincts, occasionally joining their dinners to observe Derek's growth firsthand. The three of them even laughed about the lake house weekend, able to find humor in the disaster now that everyone had learned from it. 6 months after that first post-breakup coffee, Derek invited Maya to his therapy session. My therapist suggested it, if you're comfortable. She thinks it would be helpful for me to practice vulnerability with you present, and for you to hear directly about the work I'm doing. Maya agreed, curious and nervous. In the session, she watched Derek discuss his struggles with emotional availability, his fear of intimacy, his tendency to use achievement as armor. She watched him cry when describing the pain he'd caused her. She watched him accept his therapist's gentle confrontations without deflecting. Afterwards, walking through the park, Derek stopped at a bench. Can I tell you something?